So if you haven't experienced Vacation Bible School recently, or just haven't done it since you were, Vacation Bible School age, what we did each day was filled with a lot of songs, a lot of snacks, a lot of games, and then we honed in on a particular Bible story each day and say, okay, what does this mean for us? And one of the days was this story, which Crystal just read for us, about Paul and everybody else on board the ship. And it's such a fun story. I wanted to take it and explore it with you this morning. See, what happened is this is toward the end of book of Acts. And Paul has been doing all these different missionary journeys. He's gone all these places and shared who Jesus is with all these different people. And in the process, he's made a few people mad. And so he ends up arrested. And long story short, he appeals his case to Caesar. Because Paul's a Roman citizen, he can say, I am going to take this to the highest court there is, which is the emperor. He says, I want to go see the emperor. That was his right. And so they say, okay, it's your funeral. And he gets carted off as a prisoner to head to Rome. And now, in those days, the easiest way to get from point A to point B was to sail. And he ends up in the company of the centurion who's taking all these prisoners to Rome. And they end up on the ship. And that's where the story picks up that I want to explore. Now, there's three real pieces of this that I want to highlight for you this morning. The first point is, we're not in control. Paul has appealed this to Caesar. He's appealed this case to Caesar. But he doesn't get to decide how everything turns out. He doesn't even get to decide on who's in control. He doesn't even get to decide which ship he's on or where they're going. He is there in chains with the centurion and the soldiers guarding him. And what's interesting is you see him have this interaction with everybody on board the ship. He's respected and listened to, but he's very plainly not in charge. The passage just before what you read, they're stepping there in Crete, and as they do that, they're having this discussion about, do we winter here or do we move on to someplace with a better harbor? And Paul's like, no, we're too late in the season. The winter storms are rolling in. This is going to be bad if we go. And the ship's masters and everybody else are like, no, we can't. This is not a good harbor to stay out the winter. It's too exposed to the storms. We want to go 50 miles, we're going to go 14 miles down the road, and there's a much better place. And so they end up sailing. And that's where they end up in the storm. And they get driven across the Mediterranean in this massive storm. I was thinking about this last night as we were having all the thunder and the lightning roll through, and I'm like, it was so nice of God to give us that illustration for tomorrow's sermon. I'm trying to imagine that in an open boat for 14 days, and I was just like, wow, I enjoy this when I'm nice and safe on dry land with a solid roof over my head and a basement under my feet in case it gets really bad. Doing that in an open boat? No thanks. But what this reminds us of, and what this piece, which I want to underscore for you, is when we think that we're in charge of everything, it drives us to madness. When we have this illusion that we're in control, when we have this illusion that we can control the events around us, it puts us in this place where we cannot handle it. And simply to think that we're God is what it comes down to. And we have to understand that sometimes events are just beyond our control. I have a friend of mine. She was applying for a job, and they flew her out east, and she was so excited about the job and thought this was going to be a great place to work. They had this wonderful interview, meets the CEO of this company. Amen.